What is up, guys? This is Wrecked Dreams. Coming at you with another storytime video. So I'm also playing Fistful for Eggs in the background. But essentially, I wanted to tell a story today. I told an acid trip for my first kind of drug story. I wanted to tell another acid trip that was pretty eventful. So I was in college during this acid trip, back when I was like 19 or 20. Um, and essentially, I'll just start from the beginning. So I decided to do acid on a Friday. I told two of my friends who were interested in trip sitting me, which I'd never really had trip sitters before. And essentially, what ended up happening was that I got to talk about two people. So, first person's name, we're gonna call them um, Nick, and we're gonna call the other one Maria. Oh, I'm lagging. Whatever. We're gonna call one Nick and one Maria. So they were both dating. At this point, they're actually now engaged and have kids, but that's beside the point. But at the time, they were just dating. So basically, Nick decided to trip sit me first, and basically, what we started talking about was, he had this soda bottle and he was like making it fizz by shaking it up, and he was like, "What does this look like to you?" And I like told him, I said, I can taste colors right now. I can because I had already taken the acid. I took 4 or 5 tabs. And I was like, I can taste colors. And he's like, what does blue taste like? And I was like, the sky. And anyways, so as this progresses, we're just talking about different topics. And at one point, I go completely nonverbal. And eventually, they switch off. So Maria comes in, and she is just talking to me about different things and, just shooting the shit, really. And at one point, she like, or something starts making these noises where like it's like balloons popping and all this other shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck is that? And I audibly said that. And I went to the bathroom and I'm still hearing it. And I'm like, what is that? And um, basically, as time progresses, she eventually witnesses me having ego death. And, I know a lot of people when they do acid, they talk, some people, especially people who've never done acid, which by the way, I didn't start off the video like this, but I'm not condoning any usage of drugs. I'm just telling a story, and I would not want anyone else to do drugs. I don't condone it, at least. Do your own research. Be safe. Um, but anyways, I'm hearing this crap happen, and then at one point um, I have an ego death, which I had never really had before. I had never had an ego death before, and essentially what happened is that I at one point forgot who I was. I was asking her, I'm like, what am I doing tomorrow? And she's like, you're throwing a party. And she was actually accurate. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, who am I? And she's like, you wreck dreams, Almost said my name there. That was close. Um, and so, I took this in stride and was like, oh, okay. And, the moment I had an ego death, it's really, my ex girlfriend M used to say that it's like arriving on Earth for the first time, and that's definitely one way to put it. But I would argue that it's like, um, shit, I forgot. I would argue that it's more. I gotta remember how do I change weapons. Anyways, so it's more like, um, I didn't mean to do that. Oopsies. Whoever that guy is, I'm sorry. All right. It's more like you incur this kind of feeling of like you forget who you are for a second. The barrier between um, one person and another is broken, and you feel like connected to the universe almost. That's the best way that I would describe it. Sorry that it took me a second to describe that, but that's how I would say that the universe, Like, you know how, like, this is how I'll describe it. If you ever, here's what I'll say. When you when you walk around today, you are yourself. You're attached to yourself. Your ego is attached to yourself, and that's just who you are. That boundary of you just being you, kind of breaks. Oh shit! I haven't played Shootout in so long. I'm gonna look so bad. It breaks, and it's a very interesting experience. Damn it. Anyways, so then she starts telling me out of nowhere. She's like, "Oh yeah, like, me and I'm actually pregnant with Nick's baby." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, like, like all that baby talk, because we had talked about babies before a while ago. All that baby talk. You thought I was kidding?" And I was like, I mean, I assumed so. I mean, you guys are both in college with me." And she was like, "No, no, no. I'm totally pregnant." I was like, "Okay." And then, so they eventually switch off and it's Nick again. And Maria texts me and is like, "Hey, like, don't tell Nick, but like, I lost our baby and, I just didn't want to tell him. And I'm scared to tell him." And I'm like, "Hey, like, come back, like, we can talk it out." And she, so she comes back and we're sitting there and we're trying to talk about it. And I'm talking about it for like 30 minutes. And then at the end of the 30 minutes, they were like, um, out of nowhere, Nick is like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Rex, we're fucking with you." And I'm like, "Are you joking?" And they're like, "Yeah, like, there's like loud balloon popping sounds you heard." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh yeah, like that was us just playing YouTube videos of like balloons popping." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Oh, that was the other thing I forgot. So also, Maria then wanted to like go to the Circle K down the street. And I don't know if anyone here or anyone who's listening ever actually has done acid, but going out in public is not the best idea. Um, oh shit, is not always the best idea because, like, your pupils are fucking ridiculously huge, but also like it's just extremely uncomfortable. Or at least in my opinion, it is. Other people might thrive on being out in public on acid, but I've never thrived on it. Jesus Christ, I'm fucking terrible today. But I've never thrived on it. And while I was there, I was just trying to hide my eyes and just trying to like get out of people's ways because I 150% did not want to be there. But anyways, so we did that. We came back, and then and I want to say this next part. It sounds crazy, but I promise it happened because it's happened. It's not the first time they've done this kind of crap. So I get back, we're in my room, and I have this like little speaker that like you can play music, and then also like stars and shit can like appear on the wall. It's like a projector almost, but like with stars and shit. And um, so stars and shit can appear on the walls. That was like we turned all the lights off, and that was playing. And then I wasn't noticing because I was fucking tripping, but all of a sudden I look over and they're tearing each other's clothes off and starting to have sex. So I immediately leave, even though it was my fucking room. And I shut the door behind me and I hear moaning. And eventually I just like walk out and like go into the common area because like my dorm, I had my own room, but then there was a common area and then there was another common area outside of my room. So I'm just like sitting there in the common area. Oh fuck. And they come out eventually, or at least I walk in there and they're sitting on the couch in the common area, not the one in my room, not outside of my room. And I'm like, "Guys, what the hell? Why'd you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, like, sorry about that. Things just happened." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Like, you're gonna have to wash my sheets. I'm not fucking touching them." And they're like, "Okay." So they do end up washing my sheets, which is awesome, and they didn't like stiff me on that. But anyways, um, I mean, generally speaking, that was kind of the story. I mean, it really was kind of crazy. And oh wait, I forgot one more piece. So also during this time, right after they had sex, they then for some reason were talking about getting married. And I was like, they asked me if I wanted to get married or something, and I was like, yeah, eventually. And then one of my female friends actually called me, and they told me to put the phone on speaker, and I was like, okay. So I put it on speaker, and they're like, yeah, like we both want to get married, like why don't you marry Andrew? And she's like, okay, like, and by the way, she had already left for the weekend, and I wanted to state that my roommate had also left for the weekend as well, which is why I could even do this. And she was like, yeah, like I'll come back to campus, and we can get married. And then I was like, I was like out of it, and I was like, because I was on acid, and I was like, what did she really say? And he's like, well, just from my understanding, Rex, she wants to get married to you. And heck, if I haven't heard something as clear as day, and if I'll marry you if she comes back to campus. Never ended up getting married to her, by the way, but and nothing really came out of that as well. Pro tip: don't sleep with or marry your friends. Well, okay, that's not true. Don't sleep with friends that you're not romantically interested in. I never slept with her, by the way. But anyways, that was kind of the story. I know it was a bit of a shorter one, but that was really what happened. I mean, it was a crazy acid trip where they were screwing with me, and they were having fun, and then they decided to start having sex in front of me, which is just insane. And we're playing YouTube videos of balloons popping because why not? Um, and asking me how colors tasted. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.